Denver owes him $39 million guaranteed dollars this year regardless. And so anywhere he goes and signs, they could sign him for essentially for the minimum or something close to that. And he would get the rest of the money from Denver. So he's going to have, and you were telling me he's very ready to play that game, right?
Highly motivated. He's willing to help his new team in a big way. If that means taking the minimum, then that probably has to happen. I don't know how, the team's probably going to want to pay him a little bit out of respect, honestly. But I talked to somebody close to Wilson. They said not only is he highly motivated, but he's trying to go to a team that can win and has the infrastructure to win. Denver hadn't been winning before he got there. He went somewhere that knows how to get it done year after year to put himself in the best position.
All right, we have new voices here, and so let's hear from them. Chris Canty, is Russell? Give me the crystal ball. You're looking into the future. Is Russell Wilson going to wind up signing somewhere and wind up reminding the world of the player we once thought he was?
Well, I think there's a chance depending on where he ends up going. We know the Pittsburgh Steelers are in the market to try to upgrade their quarterback room. Now, I'm not going to say that they're going to get rid of Kenny Pickett, but they at least want to bring in competition. And Russell Wilson on a one-year proposition at the veteran minimum makes a whole lot of sense. Listen, for all of the other quarterbacks that are out there in the ether to be had, whether it's Kirk Cousins in free agency or Baker Mayfield or trading for Justin Fields, Russell Wilson still represents one of the best value propositions, right? You can't ignore what you're going to pay the guy. And so when you look at the quarterback that was able to have 26 passing touchdowns to 8 interceptions and top 10 in passer rating, he will provide competent quarterback play for one of those franchises that's on the quarterback carousel this offseason. So to me, Russell Wilson is more than just a guy that you want to kick the tires on. I think it's somebody that you have to take a long, hard look at.
Boog, so you and I have been doing this together a long time. I'm trying to imagine if I had told you 6-7 years ago, we're going to come to a juncture where teams would rather have Kirk Cousins at $40-something million than Russell Wilson at $2 million. You would have laughed me out of the room. But it does feel like that's sort of the place where we have arrived. What do you think of Russell Wilson this moment in time?
Yeah, Green, I completely agree with you. I definitely think that's where we are. Listen, Russell's year one in Denver was a disaster, and we all know why. Year two, he got better. There was competent quarterback play, but I think it's very alarming and very telling that even though it was better, Sean Payton has said, I don't want him. Now, can Russell Wilson come back and play competent football and be competition for Kenny Pickett? Sure. Can he go out and play maybe to the level that he played last year? Absolutely. But this is not a slam dunk, no-brainer. Russell Wilson is going to be a starting quarterback in the National Football League for the next couple of years. I just think that time has passed, even though he played good football last year. I don't think people want to deal with everything that comes with Russell. I don't think people want to run their offense the way Russell wants to run, which is a lot built around the improvisational play that made him so good in Seattle. So, yes, I do think he will provide competition somewhere. But for us to sit here and say that he is a slam dunk to be a starting quarterback next year, I think we would really be naive.
What do you think, RG3?
Oh, Greeny, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity here. Guys, I just want to say, like, for Russell Wilson to have a top 5 touchdown to interception ratio, that's more than competent quarterback play. Like, if top 5 isn't enough to get you to be a surefire starter in the NFL come next season, then I don't know what the hell is. The bottom line is you don't bring in Russell Wilson to Pittsburgh to compete with Kenny Pickett. Russell Wilson is a guy that you bring in and you give him the keys and tell him that he's the starter. When we talk about guys bringing offenses with them, Tom Brady, he's the GOAT, right? He brought his offense with him to Tampa. Peyton Manning had 1 Super Bowl. He brought his offense with him to Denver. So when you look at Russell Wilson, why is he not getting the same level of respect as a guy that is a future Hall of Famer?
Because he's not those guys.
As a guy that has won a Super Bowl and been to 2 Super Bowls. He never got that in Denver. He definitely didn't get that from Sean Payton. And I just think that he has earned so much more respect than he has been getting, not just from the coach and Sean Payton that was there this past season, but also from us in the media. You know, the bottom line is we're looking at this from a sphere, Greeny, of they brought Russell Wilson in to win Super Bowls in Denver. He didn't accomplish that. That was an utter failure. But to say that he is not a starting quarterback in the NFL, I feel like I'm losing my mind, like I'm losing my senses. I watched the tape.
Well,
every single snap.
Listen,
Russell Wilson is a bona fide starter in the NFL, and we got to stop talking about him in the sense of, oh, he's just washed and he shouldn't be playing anymore.
Go ahead, Bug.
Well, first of all, RG, I don't think anybody said that he was washed. Here's what I'll say. Number one, let's not compare Russell Wilson to Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. They are in a different stratosphere than Russell Wilson is. Now, is Russell Wilson a borderline Hall of Fame quarterback based on what he did in Seattle? Absolutely. But are we saying that Russell Wilson is going to have the same success that Manning and Brady had in the second part of their career? I haven't seen it. And I hear you with the touchdown to interception ratio. But that TD to interception ratio was so good. It was so good that Sean Payton said, we will pay $90 million to get you the hell up out of here. So I don't want to hear about stats and all that stuff when it comes to Russell Wilson. Is Russell Wilson a bona fide starting quarterback to the point that Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos, they said, we will pay $90 million to get you out of here? That speaks volumes, man.
Go, Canty, jump in here.
Yeah, I don't think Russell Wilson is going to be handed the starting quarterback job. He's not going to be QB1 going into training camp. He's going to have to compete, right? And so it depends on what the options are available. But the rest of the league is saying something when they're waiting on Kirk Cousins, that domino to fall, when they're waiting on Baker Mayfield to see what happens with him, when they're waiting to see what Chicago wants from Justin Fields. I think Russell Wilson is that next quarterback from the veteran market that's in line. So I think the rest of the league is telling you where they think Russell Wilson's game is. Not to say that he can't be a good quarterback, but I think that Russell Wilson is going to have to wait until some of these other chairs get filled and then wait to see what team doesn't have a chair when the music stops. So whoever misses out on the Kirk Cousins sweepstakes, whether it's the Atlanta Falcons or the Minnesota Vikings, I think Russ could slot in that position. But ultimately, the rest of the league is waiting to see what happens to those other quarterbacks, and that speaks volumes about what stage Russell Wilson is in his career.
The most telling part about that is the contract.
Yeah.
You can get him for basically nothing, and teams are not racing to try and do it. I mean, it tells you whatever it tells you.
No doubt, and that's the part where we have to keep it in its proper perspective when you look at the decision that the Denver Broncos made. Undoubtedly, this will go down as one of the worst trades in NFL history.
Yeah.
But when you look at what the Denver Broncos would be on the hook for if they stayed the course with Russell Wilson, you're talking about $39 million in cash this year and then another $40 million next year. They were not going to do that because of the production not matching what the cost of the player was. So it made sense for Denver to move off of this. I give them credit for having the gumption to make that kind of tough decision as an organization. But the reality is that Russell Wilson will become one of the best value propositions because of the offsets with the contracts. It's just not going to be priority one for a team this offseason. It's Russell Wilson and not Russell Wilson instead of.
I'll say this. I understand the point you're making, but I would spin it in a different direction. The Broncos organization, this is the way they handle this whole situation in total is organizational malpractice.
No doubt.
I mean, it is what they did. Put the trade up on the screen, okay? You deserve, as an organization, to stink for a long time based on deals like this. What's not even on your screen for all the stuff they traded is this. Look how much money they paid him. They paid him $124 million, and they have to owe $85 million in dead cap for letting him go. It is the worst transaction. I think you can make an argument that between the trade and the contract, it is about as bad an NFL transaction as has ever been made. And I blame Russell Wilson for that only this much. I don't think he's nearly the most important, or I think the coaching hire they made the year before was obviously catastrophically bad. Then they panic and they go out and get Sean Payton when it was clear he didn't want Russell Wilson, that Russell Wilson doesn't play his style of offense and all that. So rather than try and fix the problem they had made before, they just made it worse and sealed their own fate.
Yeah, but Russ wanted more say leaving out of Seattle. He got more say in year one with Denver, and it was a disaster, right? The guy had his own office outside of the locker room. Where they do that at in the NFL? They don't, which is why it didn't work. So Russell Wilson deserves plenty of blame on this one. But we see this time and time again, Greeny, when organizations get in quarterback purgatory, they make desperate decisions. We saw it with the Cleveland Browns and Deshaun Watson. We saw it with Carson Wentz with the Indianapolis Colts. We saw it with your New York Jets last offseason. Russell Wilson is just the next one in a long line of those.
Can I argue with you for a second here? When do I have to let him go back? Because I can't. It's not my place to keep you here from radio because you have your own show to do. But the bottom line of I'll take the flip side of that is when his own office and all that kind of stuff. You know who he was when you got him. Like, if you didn't know that, well, I'm sitting here and I knew that, right? I've heard Richard Sherman talk. I've heard all these guys, the Legion of Boom guys, all talk about Russell. It was no secret who they were acquiring when they went out and acquired him. So don't tell me, oh, it turns out Russell Wilson is sort of a difficult personality. Everyone on planet Earth knew that. If the Broncos didn't know that and they made that trade and signed him, then shame on them.
Sure, but I can't absolve the player, the actual individual that's out there on the field either.
Exactly.
He showed up out of shape that first year. He did.
Booger, jump in here.
Hard to eat when you're full.
Booger, go.
Yeah, Greeny, listen, I think you said it best early on. You and I have been doing this for a long time, and never before have I heard you make excuses for a player like you just did with Russell Wilson. At some point, the player has to step on the field and play, Greeny. Like, the guy has to step on the field and play, and we can blame everybody else. We can talk about the organization knew what they were getting. We can talk about Nathaniel Hackett, but at some point, Russell Wilson stepped between those white lines, and his play wasn't to the level that the Broncos said and Sean Payton said that I can win with, so we're going to take on $85 million worth of dead cap. If Russell Wilson is not the majority of responsibility, then who is? He's the guy who's playing. He's the one who's throwing the football.
I feel like RG3 is going through like the 8 stages of grief for whatever it is. Like, he's having every emotion as we're having this conversation. Go ahead, Russ. And someone tell me in my ear if I have to let Chris go, because I'm going to get yelled at. He has his own show to go.
Well, Chris can leave when he wants to leave. He's bigger than you, number one.
That's true, too.